My world used to be filled with a different kind of quiet, the comfortable, well-insulated silence of a life built on solid ground. It was the quiet of a suburban street after the kids were in bed, the quiet of a healthy bank account, the quiet of a future I thought was as certain as the sunrise. I traded that life, all of it, for a different kind of sound, a frantic, electric, and ultimately soul-crushing noise. The sound of a casino. And now this warehouse silence is all I have left. Before the noise, my life was a blueprint of responsible adulthood. I owned a small logistics company, a business I had built from a single van and a second-hand computer. It was a world of calculated risks, of margins and fuel costs and delivery windows. I was good at it. I understood how to manage risk, how to build something slowly and carefully, how to turn a profit through discipline and hard work. That discipline built our world. My wife, the anchor of my life, and I had a beautiful home, the kind with a big green lawn that our two kids would run across in the summer. We had savings. We had investments. We had a life that was the physical embodiment of the American dream, a fortress I had built brick by brick to protect the people I loved from the uncertainties of the world. I was proud of that fortress. I was proud of its stability, its predictability. But a part of me, a part I didn't even know existed, was suffocating inside its safe, sensible walls. I was bored. The introduction to the other world, the world of noise, was a harmless business trip. A client took me to a casino for dinner. After the meal, he gave me a few $100 chips. "For fun," he said with a wink. I had never been a gambler. I saw it as a fool's game, a tax on people who were bad at math. But I sat down at a blackjack table, a little drunk on expensive wine and the thrill of a successful business deal. I played for an hour, and I won. It wasn't a lot of money, not in the grand scheme of things, but it wasn't about the money. It was about the feeling. The thrill of the risk, the surge of adrenaline with each turn of the card, the feeling of being in a world where the normal rules of slow, steady work didn't apply. It was a secret electric current that jolted me out of my predictable life. I went home and I didn't tell my wife about the win. It was my secret, my own private source of excitement. I started going to a local casino just for an hour or two after work. I told myself it was a hobby, a way to de-stress. I set limits. I was a man who understood risk management, after all. I would only play with a small amount of cash, my entertainment budget. The fortress was still safe. I was just having a little fun in a boat on the moat. But the boat had a leak, and I was the one who had put it there. The small bets became my escape, my true passion. The quiet satisfaction of my real life began to pale in comparison to the heart-pounding thrill of the casino. I was no longer a man who occasionally gambled. I was a gambler who was pretending to be a normal man. The line between a hobby and an obsession is a razor's edge, and I started running along it at full speed. My entertainment budget was no longer enough to provide the thrill I was chasing. The small bets felt meaningless. I needed higher stakes to feel the same rush. That's when I started to lie, not just to my wife, but to myself. I told myself I wasn't just gambling, I had a system. I was managing risk, making smart plays. This was an alternate form of investment, a more exciting one. The first time I used the ATM inside the casino, pulling money from our joint savings account, was a moment of profound, sickening betrayal. I remember the sickly fluorescent lights of the casino ceiling, the cheerful chime of the machine as it spat out the cash. That cash represented family vacations we had planned, a kitchen renovation my wife had dreamed of, a piece of our children's future. And I was about to feed it into a machine designed to take it. The lie I told my wife was that I was moving some of our savings into a high-yield bond fund, a sensible, boring investment that she wouldn't question. She trusted me. I was the financial architect of our family. That trust was the most valuable thing I had in the world, and I was leveraging it for a few more hours at a poker table. The losses started to mount. The system was a delusion, a story I told myself to justify the addiction. Every loss created a deeper, more desperate need to win it all back. I was chasing, a frantic, panicked sprint to get back to even. The joy was gone, replaced by a grim, joyless compulsion. I was no longer playing for the thrill, I was playing to stop the pain. My life at home became a performance. I was an actor playing the part of a loving husband and father, but my mind was always somewhere else, replaying hands, calculating odds, planning my next trip to the casino. My wife knew something was wrong. The easy intimacy we shared was replaced by a tense, fragile distance. I was a stranger in my own home, my body present, but my soul 1,000 miles away in a world of smoke and neon. She would ask me what was wrong, her eyes filled with a loving concern that felt like a hot poker in my gut. And I would lie. I would blame stress at work, a difficult client, anything but the ugly, corrosive truth. I was destroying our fortress from the inside out, one lie, one bet at a time. The final, desperate act was a second mortgage on our home. It was the ultimate act of financial treason. I forged her name on the paperwork, my hand shaking so badly I could barely sign my own. The money, a sum that represented the very equity of our life together, landed in my account, and I felt a wave of relief so profound it almost felt like hope. This was it. This was the bankroll I needed to win it all back, to fix everything, to erase the lies and the losses and become the man I was supposed to be. I took that money, the very foundation of our home, and I walked into the casino for what I knew would be the last time. It was an all-or-nothing bet, a final, desperate stand. I was either going to walk out of that place a hero, or I was going to walk out with nothing. The casino greets you like an old friend and sends you home like a stranger. That final night, it felt like a cathedral. The lights were brighter, the sounds were sharper, the air thick with a desperate, electric promise. I walked to the high-stakes baccarat table, a game of pure, unadulterated chance, and I felt a strange, fatalistic calm. My life's work, my family's security, my entire future was about to be reduced to the turn of a few cards. I didn't play smart. I didn't use a system. I just bet big and blind, riding a wave of pure, insane hope. And for a while, the wave carried me. I was winning, a run of impossible luck that felt like a sign from the universe. The pile of chips in front of me grew into a small, beautiful mountain. The whispers around the table, the admiring glances, they were a balm on my wounded ego. I was the architect again, the master builder. I had done it. I was going to be the hero. And then, as it always does, the wave crested. The luck turned. A single catastrophic hand. I pushed my entire mountain of chips into the betting circle, all in. The dealer turned the cards. The silence in my head was absolute. I saw the numbers. They were the wrong numbers. The dealer, with a practiced, emotionless flick of his wrist, raked my mountain of chips away. It was over. The hope, the adrenaline, the delusion, it all vanished in a single, silent second, replaced by a cold, empty void. I walked out of the casino and into the pre-dawn grayness of the city. The noise was gone. All that was left was the truth. I had not just lost money. I had lost everything. The confession was a quiet, brutal affair. I walked into the home that I no longer owned, and I told my wife the truth. I watched the last of her love for me die in her eyes, replaced by a look of such hollow, empty devastation that it will haunt me for the rest of my days. The collapse was a swift, merciless demolition. The foreclosure notice arrived. My logistics company, which I had neglected and used as a personal ATM, went bankrupt. I was not just broke. I was in a canyon of debt, with angry creditors and the man who had given me the high-interest loan all demanding their pound of flesh. My wife did the only thing a sane and loving mother could do. She packed her bags and our children's bags, and she left. She was going to her sister's, a place of safety, a place far away from the wreckage of the life I had destroyed. There were no tears, no final, dramatic fight, just a sad, quiet resignation. She was a survivor, and I was the shipwreck she had to swim away from. I was left alone, a king in a kingdom of cardboard boxes and echoing silence. The risk I had chased, the thrill I had craved, had delivered its final, brutal invoice. The price had been my entire world. The first few months of my new life were a lesson in the art of hitting bottom. I moved from the empty house to a cheap motel, and from the motel to a single, furnished room in a part of town I barely knew existed. The shame was a constant companion, a physical weight that made it hard to breathe, hard to look people in the eye. I was a ghost, haunted by the memory of the man I used to be, the man who had a family, a home, a life. To survive, I had to work. The only job I could find was on a night crew cleaning warehouses. The irony was not lost on me. I, the man who used to own a logistics company, was now sweeping the floors of one. The work was hard, humbling, and it was the best thing for me. The physical exhaustion was a mercy, a powerful sedative for my racing, self-loathing thoughts. The simple act of earning a small, honest paycheck was a single, solid brick in a life that had been reduced to rubble. It was in the quiet loneliness of that life that I was finally forced to confront the truth. My problem wasn't a lack of money. My problem was me. My addiction to risk, my insatiable ego, my belief that I was special, that the rules didn't apply to me, that was the sickness. The casino hadn't ruined me. I had used the casino to ruin myself. I started going to meetings, sitting in a circle of strangers who were the only people in the world who could understand the insanity that had driven me. I learned to talk about my failures, to own them, to understand them. It was a slow, painful process of dismantling the lies I had told myself for years. I started to rebuild my life, not from the outside in, but from the inside out. I established a routine. I went to work. I went to meetings. I read books. I learned to live a small, quiet, and honest life. I started to reconnect with my children, first through letters, then through phone calls. I didn't try to be the hero dad anymore. I was just their dad, a man who was broken but was trying to get better. I told them the truth in an age-appropriate way. I told them I had a sickness and that I was working hard to heal. My ex-wife and I found a new, fragile peace. We would never be husband and wife again, but we became partners in raising our children. She saw that I was changing, that I was taking responsibility. The anger was replaced by a sad, cautious hope. My life today is unrecognizable from the one I once had, and from the one I dreamed of at the casino tables. I still work the night shift. I live in a small, rented room. I will be paying for my mistakes for a long, long time. But I am not a man in ruin. The risk I took destroyed everything I thought was important. But in the wreckage, it forced me to find what truly was. I found a strength I never knew I had. I found a peace in the quiet of a simple, honest life. I found that the greatest fortune a man can have is not a stack of chips, but a clear conscience. I don't know what the future holds. I am building it one day at a time, one brick at a time. It will not be a palace. It will be a small, simple structure, but its foundation will be solid, built not on the shifting sands of luck, but on the hard-won bedrock of honesty and self-respect. That's the story. Now it's your turn to join the conversation. Comment your thoughts and your country, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more episodes like this.